Hey everybody, Eric Hayden here in the garden. Special thanks to my wife for doing this video today so I could kind of show you what's going on. It's the first week of December. It's not Christmas yet, but for Rosarians, it is Christmas, especially if you're getting your order from Palatine Roses. Palatine is one of the best companies for bare roses, and we're gonna do a two-part series on that. The roses just arrived. You can see the sticker. They are from Canada, Palatine Roses. We're gonna unbox the roses. It's kind of neat. You see it in a small box like this. How in the world could this turn into be a rose bush? We're gonna talk about that. So this whole first part is gonna be an unboxing of the Palatine Roses. We're going to discuss what a bare root rose is, why you should get one. I'm going to show you the quality of Palatine roses. I still think they're the best by far for any of the mail order roses. What you do with this rose out of the box, talk a little bit about the water you put it in, and then for part two, be sure to check back for that. We're going to actually plant the rose bush and go from there. So let's get going with the unboxing of the bare root rose. While I do this, what a bare root rose is, it's a dormant rose that has been stripped of soil. So all that you have are the roots and the small canes of the rose itself. Often they're shipped in the fall or spring, and we'll discuss it a little bit on part two, but you can really get them shipped either in fall or spring depending on where you live. It just depends when you want to plant it, and I'll cover more of that in the part on planting itself. So it's a dormant rose. These tend to be 1.5 to 2 years that they've been in the ground before they've been dug up. And what I mean by that, and I hope I get this right, these were probably budded onto multiflora, which is the rootstock that Palatine uses. They were probably budded in late spring of 2018. So bear with me. It's budded onto the rootstock. It grows the rest of the summer into the fall of 2018, and then the top is taken off, and that variety grows on your rootstock. It survives the winter of 2018, 2019, grows a full summer season into 2020, then it's dug up and sent to you in the mail. So they on average are 1.5 to 2 years old. They're dug up, sent to you in a small box. You can see they have a certificate that they're stripped of soil or any diseases, and that's one of the advantages to the bare root rose. Since it's very, very small in shipping, you're not shipping dirt, you're not shipping anything real heavy, so the shipping cost does not cost that much. Palatine always does an excellent job with instructions. I've gotten roses from them for 7-8 years now, so I'll look through them, see if anything's changed, but I don't need that. So let's get to the rose themselves, and they do a really good job of packaging. And this is the thing that just really blows my mind. Again, here's the rose itself. You can see that they're in plastic and they've been wetted. If you do get shipping in the spring, they usually put them in the refrigerator and keep them cool and moist. So you don't have to get them in the fall, but they're put in this plastic. Sometimes other companies use sawdust or newspaper, and that's just to keep the rose itself wet and moist and keep it from drying out. So these are the 3 roses I ordered. I'll show you the rootstock here in a second. It's looking quite nice. And then again, those are grafted onto multiflora roses. So let's get this opened up. In addition, all you really need is a pair of scissors, and I like to have some gloves because they are, roses, so they do have thorns on them. So I'm gonna take this out of the bag. And the reason why they're cut down like this is for shipping, so that they can, make it to you and not have a huge box. But this is what you're getting with the Palatine roses. These are 3 roses. I'm going to separate them in a second so you can see them. But the thing that separates Palatine is this. I brought my snow stick over, and some of these are even shorter than years past, but this is a pretty good example here. This is a foot long, and sometimes they're 18-inch long, the roots. That's where they excel, that particular company. Imagine the rose, they had to cut it down to ship it, but they have a special tool. I visited their nursery before that really gets deep into the ground to lift up the roots. You want as many roots as possible. You might say, well, these canes are really short. Don't worry, those are going to grow back and grow quite big if you have a good root stock on it and good root system, and they certainly do that. That's one of the things I've noticed from them. So I don't want all this stuff blowing away, but I want to open them up. For simplicity, usually at this point I would just put them in the water, but I want to show you a couple things about them before I do so. So they're bundled really nice and neat. You'll notice these little pink tags on them, and I'll try to loosely separate them those are what the variety is. So in this case, I've got 2 Moonstone and I've got a Gemini. So let me tease that out. Really, really nice roots on them. And again, that's very important. I wouldn't worry about the cane length too much because those are trimmed down on purpose. What I like to see is the root stock, the root system on it. And again, some are gonna vary, but you say, oh, this is not much, just a couple canes, but look at how long these roots are. I challenge you to compare these to any other company that you've gotten roses from in the bare root quality to this. I don't get anything from Palatine. I'm not sponsored. As you can probably imagine, we're a pretty lowly YouTube channel, so I don't have any sponsors, but when I see quality, I like to talk about it, and these roots are amazing. So here's Moonstone here. It'll have the variety name on it, so you can see Moonstone, and it's also labeled at the bottom as well. This is a grade 1 rose. When you get a bare root rose, you want at least 3 good canes, and they certainly have that. You want a high quality rose, and pretty much all the online shipping ones stick to the grade 1. And I've talked about this on past ones. This is multiflora rootstock. This is the bud union. This is where Moonstone was actually grafted, again, 1.5 to 2 years ago, and then all these canes are Moonstone. So again, Moonstone's a variety. It's grafted here at the bud union, and the rootstock is multiflora. So I've got 1 Moonstone, and you can see that they vary a little bit, but as long as you've got 3 good canes, you're good to go. This is a Gemini. Again, the roots are a little bit shorter here. You can see sometimes they do trim them depending on what's going on, but overall really, really nice root system with that. And another one with good long roots. You'll see some companies will cut them short, and you want a nice balance between the canes and the roots. If you have these long canes, they're not really worth much unless you have some roots to support them. If you don't have them, it doesn't mean the rose won't do well, but initially it'll take some time. They've got to get their feet under them before they really can get going. And the variety will change or will vary. These are both Moonstone. You can see this one has slightly longer roots than this one, maybe more canes, but again, it's not really big deal. So as we wrap this up, bare roots are dormant roses. They come in the mail. You can pick them up in the store. Some stores sell them. They tend to be much cheaper because you're not shipping soil. You're not shipping a pot. What do you have to do before you plant them? Easy. It's the easiest thing you'll have to do. All you need to do is soak them in water about 24 hours. So I've got 2 containers here of water. That's your traditional 5-gallon bucket that you get at a big box store. One little hint, I got this at my favorite grocery store, Wegmans, up in New York State. Some of your bakery sections will give you free buckets if you ask. This carried a frosting, and all my white buckets are from Wegmans. It's a nice 4-gallon one. Some folks put special stuff in the water, fish emulsion, B12, I've heard of all of it. These are dormant, and I don't put anything in special to the water, just plain old water. I did both buckets just to kind of show. This one works okay. It's a 4-gallon one, but notice the roots are kind of sticking out a little bit. So I go as big as I can. You want to submerge that, at least covering up all the roots. So this fits in really nicely. If the canes get wet, no big deal, but you definitely want from the bud union down, this whole root area to be submerged in water. And the reason for that, as good a care as Palatine takes, these roses have been shipped. They were probably dug up back in November. I know they were shipped out earlier this week, and UPS is just a couple days. So they are certainly not dried out, but they haven't been in the ground. So the first thing you want to do is get them soaking in water. And again, at least up to the bud union. If it gets up a little higher in the canes, that's okay as well. So we'll wait 24 hours. Stay tuned for part 2. Part 2, we're going to talk about planting. It depends where you live, how you plant, when you plant. We'll cover all that in part 2. So again, this was bare root roses from Palatine. Christmas in early December. Be sure to stick for part 2 on how we plant these roses.